you're very pro-Palestinian.
Yes.
You're very pro or anti-war. Would you say that you're anti-Israel?
No.
Would you say that you're anti-Jewish?
No.
Okay. You're very pro-Israel. You're also very pro-American. Would you say you're pro-American? Mm-hmm. When you hear chants like from Iran or even Palestinian protesters chanting death to America, how do you feel about that?
Not my thing.
What do you mean?
I'm not pro anyone's chanting death to America.
Okay, so you're pro-America.
Yeah, sure.
Good, we're on the same page here. You're also pro-Palestinian.
Yeah. Look, I believe America has a right to exist and that Americans should definitely not be targeted. But I'm very critical about America's involvement in foreign policy in the Middle East. And I wouldn't say that I'm just pro-Palestinian as a human rights cause. I'm pro-Palestinian as a family cause. These are my people. There is no future where my children will not be raised with their children on this land that we are eternally connected to. So it's more than just, oh, I happen to be pro-human being no matter who it is. Palestinians, there's an extra degree of closeness with them. So I'm not pro-Israel. I am Israel. Same way that I didn't wake up this morning realizing, oh, I'm going to be pro-Rudy today. I'm obviously pro my own interest. So Jews aren't pro-Israel. We are Israel. And I am pro-Palestinian very much so.
So what I want to do is, you know, there's been talk of this two-state solution forever. You know, Trump just came out and deeply criticized Netanyahu today. If you can pull that up right there. I want both of you, who seem to be very obviously engaged in this and literally engaged in battle. You were in Gaza fighting what I believe are terrorists. Trump is now ripping Netanyahu over October 7th, saying the Hamas attack should have never happened. That's literally today he said that. Thank you, Trump. What's your solution? If you can bring some solution to this that's realistic. I'm going to let you go first, and then I'm going to give Rudy the final word. What's your solution to try to make this a peaceful arrangement to end where both sides can live together? Because when I hear from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, sounds great, but that means eliminating all the Jews from Israel. How many Jews live in Israel?
About 8 to 9 million.
All right, so it's only another Holocaust, no big deal. The world seemed to be okay with that in the 40s. What's your solution? What should be done with Israel? Because every time there's a negotiation, it's always the Palestinians that reject it. So I would love to see a Palestinian, whether it's Fatah or PLA or fucking Hamas, say, okay, Israel has the right to exist. Here's what we want. But unfortunately, they want from the river to the sea. By the way, do you know what river and what sea we're talking about?
The Jordanian River and the Mediterranean Sea.
That a girl? I'd be willing to venture that most protesters have no clue. What would you like to see? 1 minute or less.
This is the million-dollar question. This is a conflict that spans several decades. It's been attempted to be solved by several American presidencies, so many different prime ministers, so many different foreign dignitaries. I don't think I could tell you in one succinct way that I have the solution.
No, not you, but you know, speaking on behalf of, I'm putting you as sort of like the poster child of literally the kids protesting to divest and boycott and sort of be anti-Israel, anti-war. What would you like to see? What's realistic?
I would favor any solution that meets certain conditions. So one that institutes the right of return for Palestinian refugees, that puts an end to the ongoing occupation, that puts an end to the blockade, and ideally a secular democratic state where both Israelis and Palestinians have equal rights in all territories. Okay. Whether that be a one-state or two-state solution, I personally my personal opinion is on that is kind of irrelevant. I think that the international legal framework favors a two-state solution. I personally don't have a preference towards one or two states. If it were, as long as those preconditions are met, I would be satisfied.
So, Rudy, I'm going to let you kind of wrap this thing up, but you know, Israel and Netanyahu has been very clear in order for there to be a ceasefire. By the way, there was a ceasefire on October 6th. Hamas broke the ceasefire. I think that's fair to say. They've been very clear. We want our hostages back. Until we get our children back, you've said that, you know, Israelis and Palestinians are cousins in our family. Well, Israel has been known to want to get their children back, the children of Israel. They said, yeah, there's zero ceasefire until we get the hostages back. Hamas has actively declined this. They don't care if Palestinians end up dead. Anthony Blinken basically said, Hamas, take it or leave it. take this freaking deal. Do you have that article about the ceasefire? Show that. U.S. is now hopeful Hamas will accept Israel's newest ceasefire offer to Hamas. Blinken said that it was extraordinary generous offer. The Gaza war, U.S. hopeful will accept a ceasefire. Hamas has shown no indications that it's going to happen. Rudy, final word here. What's going to happen? How will there be a ceasefire? What would you like to see this solution? On one end, there's the two-state solution. On one end, we've heard the final solution for Jews for all too long. What is actually a realistic solution here?
So to conclude here, I'll definitely go right back and say George Soros, even though he might be acting against the Jewish people, is a Jew no matter what, because we're not a belief system, we're an actual ancient civilization and native people, and he is acting against the Jews, and to call him out for doing so is not anti-Semitic either. So there's nuance within both of what you said. There's the short term and there's the long term. Short term, with the Israeli-Palestinian conflict right now happening with Gaza, we must bring back all the hostages. We will bring them home. We must take out Hamas and remove them from power. We must install security for Israel and the Palestinians and all the civilians that are living in this land. That's number one. Now, on the long term, in order to get there, we need to understand the injustices that are happening on both sides, because there is no peace without justice on both sides. We need to understand the aspirations that both people have. In order to get to a solution, it must include both for both peoples. A two-state solution actually does neither for either, because both peoples want to live from the river to the sea, and so already doesn't achieve the aspirations. And because there's no aspirations, there will be conflict and fighting, which will only lead to continued injustice and insecurity. So any solution that will come will be a journey, will be a process, will not be a piece of paper printed by a US printer, brought to the Israelis and Palestinians have to sign that. It will be a process and a journey for which Israelis and Palestinians will begin to rise up, understand that we're not only human beings, but cousins to each other, that we both belong into this land, and Israelis need to start hearing what are the needs of Palestinians, what are their identities, what are their experiences, what are their aspirations, and Palestinians need to do the same to the Israeli people. For me, it is only one civilization solution. And again, it's intentionally ambiguous because there's many potential ways in which that can happen, where Israelis and Palestinians have freedom from the river to the sea, are treated equally, but also we're able to achieve our ancient aspirations of having Jerusalem as our holy capital city, as having Israel as our reinstated civilization and country. Now, the problem with the right of return for Palestinians in this equation is usually demographics. Now, I work on a big project that maybe in the next time we can talk about, on a project called We Were Never Lost, which is bringing tribes of Israel back to Israel. Today, the 15 million Jews are the descendants of 2.5 tribes out of 12, which means we have 9.5 tribes still out there that if they were to return, the demographics of Palestinians returning back home would not threaten the idea of a Jewish democracy to the Jewish people. So there are ways of getting to the solution, but the solution will never happen on either side if we don't look at the injustices Palestinians face and realize that as Israelis, although we didn't create it, we do have the power now to correct it and to fix it, and we have a responsibility to do so. And Palestinians need to understand that the Jews aren't foreigners. We are the indigenous people to the land. If you dig in the land, you find our history, you find our archaeology, you find our anthropology. We are the people that are indigenous from them. There's nowhere else that we're going to go. Even if we had other places we could go, we wouldn't go there. So there's an acceptance that needs to come from both sides and an understanding that there is no future without the other.
I love it. This has been an amazing conversation. I think we need more of these conversations. Here's how I'd like to conclude this. You each can say literally one thing. What's the one thing he said that you're like, you know what? I didn't know that. Thank you for that information. I'm willing to consider that. And same for you. Oh, okay, cool. Never heard that. Good point. What's the one thing that maybe changed your perspective about the Israeli position?
I feel like speaking with you today, it's hard to say that it's I think we both are familiar with the points that the other person were making. Where we agree and disagree is obviously what we were hashing out. But I did think it was interesting for you to frame it as like one civilization. You know, I've never heard that framing from somebody who considers themselves pro-Israeli or pro-Palestinian or interested in this conflict. And I do think that that is like an interesting way of like framing the conversation beyond just looking at statehood purely, right? So that's something else.
Fair enough. You have this conversation all the time. Clearly, you know your stuff. Respect to you. From using her as sort of a symbol of what's going on amongst these campus protests, what did she say, or what resonated with you? It's like they do have a good point there. What's the final thing you want to say there?
So yeah, this is what I do. So I can't say there's something new that I've heard, but I can see in your essence and in your soul, you truly care about human life. You're not here to be against Israel, against the Jewish people, and you want justice for the Palestinians. And from that, I respect that. And I know that your intentions are pure. And in the final reality of what we'd like to see, we wouldn't disagree. And I think if we had more conversations like this on platforms like yours, on other platforms, on college campuses, we'd realize that the true intentions and ambitions that the collectives had, Israelis and Palestinians, are not contradictory, and all those who are allies to each cause, let's say non-Jews that are pro-Israel, non-Palestinians that are pro-Palestinian, they all need to realize that they need to help us come together, not be pulling us apart.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. If you like that one, click right here to watch the full SOSCAST, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.